what is inbound sales at Tanda? And is the sales the be-all and end-all of your role?
So inbound sales, I think Saxon briefly touched on it, but essentially everyone who signs up for an account, everyone who puts in a pricing inquiry for the product or comes in through intercom, essentially we like to get in touch with them, find out what their requirements are, and essentially just make sure the system's a good fit for them before obviously talking about pricing and all the information that the client would like to hear. Saxon?
Yeah, pretty much what Hunter just summed up then. Sales is not the be-all and end-all of the role. We do a lot of different things at Tanda. We have, for example, CS rotations or workforce success rotations, so we work a lot on support as well. Me personally have started doing a more manager role rather than just doing sales and trying to figure out how we can grow the inbound team to get more people coming through and market sort of better for Tanda as well.
Good stuff. So what do you guys think the stereotypical salesperson is? And what do you think a salesperson should actually be?
I think typically you could probably associate a salesperson with like used car lot and cold calls, probably the two most well-knowns. In terms of what they should be, probably someone who's more acting as an advisor almost to the client, in my opinion. That way, the client's getting the best experience possible, they're getting the information they want to know, and obviously going down that pathway.
Yeah, I think the stigma with salespeople in general is just, like if someone calls you up, oh, hey, I'm this from this, and you just want to get them off the phone as soon as possible. So it's not a really good outlook on sales in general, but my opinion is different, and we can explain that a little bit later as well.
Good stuff. So what actually motivates you guys to sell?
Essentially just improving business, really, so for other people. So me coming from a council sponsorship sort of environment as well, sort of getting in contact with other companies who around the Ipswich area at the time who were sort of looking for a bit of a boost in their business, and obviously we'd be able to offer some exposure. So bringing that to Tanda as well, sort of obviously we're helping people increase efficiency and get a return on their payroll even.
Yeah, my motivation, very much as well why I started working at Tanda, or my motivation for that, is I want to make a lot of connections. Also want to learn about different things. So working in an inbound role, I have a lot of different industries sign up. I can learn a lot of different things. And then meet a lot of people that I can bring on to my next role, or if I start my own business, potentially they can help out with other things with that as well.
Was a sales role everything you expected it to be before joining up?
When I was a child, I used to go to my dad's office, and he does sales, or his office does for software, for like electronics, TVs and things like that. So I had a pretty poor outlook on sales. I thought it was going to be an office job, very boring, etc. I started working at Tanda and completely changed my view. Everyone was very energetic. Really, it's a really fun environment to be in.
Much similar to Saxon. My parents were both involved in sales somewhat as well. My dad worked in sort of money markets through Westpac and Metway dealing rooms through the 80s, where it was still sort of somewhat appropriate to swear at your client down the phone and they'd sort of swear back at you and it'd be all good. And my mum was involved in commodities as well, so they sort of set an early expectation when they found out that I was going for interviews and sales, and I had a pretty good understanding of what I was getting into, really.
No swearing at Tanda, though?
Oh, not at all.
Which skills have you learnt while working in sales at Tanda that you believe will benefit you inside and outside of the workplace?
For me, a lot of it's the understanding what people want, also learning social cues and sort of why people react certain ways. And I feel like sales in general is just a skill you can take anywhere. Social dynamics, you learn a lot about that. So that's the skills I think will work everywhere.
Well, obviously earlier today we had our talk on Zapier. So before me coming to Tanda, I hadn't heard of Zapier or the other version of that software, or the competitor rather, if this and that. So essentially, me learning those tools, I've been able to automate a lot of stuff in my life, both personally and in professional atmospheres. So I think that'll sort of carry across as time goes on, for sure.
Where do you guys see yourself in 5 years? Nice generic question.
Hopefully still at Tanda, to be honest. But if not, hopefully on my way to sort of starting my own consulting firm and working with more and more hospitality clients mainly, and sort of helping them improve systems and processes, and maybe even sort of menu options and things as well. So it's kind of the big picture.
Yeah, definitely either running my own business or doing something related to sales, talking to a lot of different people every day, honing my skills.
Awesome. So Hunter and Saxon have prepared a bit of an activity for you guys to do today. So I'll let them take you through that.
Who here's got sales experience? Hands up. All right, I needed a volunteer. Are you keen to come pitch something?
And guys, we'll get another volunteer as well. Don't necessarily have to have sales experience. Have we got any options available out here? Yeah, let's go. Jake, we'll get the founder up here.
Here you go, mate.
All right, so I'll explain it while Saxon's sort of taking through our volunteers what they'll be doing. Essentially, we'll be getting one of our volunteers will be selling to the other in a role play situation, and the person doing the selling has no idea who the business is that they're selling to, what they do, or what industry they're in, anything about them at all. So the seller will have a list of products. They'll have to find out what business that person is in, whether there's a need for that product, and obviously try and set up a meeting later on to discuss the finer details. So should be pretty interesting, guys.
Hello, this is Emma. How are you today?
Hi Emma, how you going? This is Jake. I'm good, thank you.
So, what are you up to? What's your plans today?
Oh, I'm just eating lunch at the moment. I was just having a Domino's pizza.
Oh, nice. Do you usually eat Domino's?
Yes, I really enjoy the premium range. Very good. Can recommend.
So, what type of work do you get into?
Oh, look, I just actually just finished firing an employee. I just needed to calm down a little bit, so I thought I'd have a pizza and just get some carbs into my system.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Look, I was just wondering, after you finish all your pizza, do you have any issues with like cleanliness around the house or anything like that?
Cleanliness around the house? No, because I put the box straight in the bin.
Do you rent any properties or anything like that? Or you live at home by yourself?
I still live with my parents.
Okay, cool. And what do your parents do?
Mum and Dad are both in sales. They work in commodities markets and electronics.
Lovely. So is it like more of a family-run business or?
Yeah, it is a family. Yeah, it's a family-run business. Yes.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Well, I actually work with a family business as well, and we're really, really trying to promote our new products, which include household items that can actually help kind of benefit your house and your cleanliness and your overall lifestyle.
Yeah, well, look, I am sitting in squalor at the moment, so I'm very keen to hear more about your products.
Of course, we can offer you a range of products, and we'd love to discuss anything more that could help you, and not just with you, and also with your business as well.
Yeah, so what sort of products are you selling generally? Is it just for the household? You mentioned business there.
Yeah, so we've got household products, and also for the business as well. So firstly with households, we have like detergents, salts, solvents, disinfectant, but obviously these are multi-purpose and you can kind of integrate these into your business. So
what sort of salts do you have? Like pool salts as well? Or just cleaning salts?
Well, what we usually do is the process is as soon as you're interested in a product, I'll send you directly to the team that can tell you more information about that product.
Okay, and generally, what's your sort of your sales process? This type of thing, like we're actually a local government organisation, so are you able to help us procure from you through that situation?
Yes, of course. Like, we work with a range of different industries and businesses, and we can cope with like large numbers and small quantities. And yeah, we just like to get to know the person and the business and how we can help kind of work in with what you've got and what you need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, look, so we actually run 15 swimming pools. We got 42 pools across 14 locations and 500 staff. Do you deal with clients that sort of size regularly?
Well, our usual client size is commercial. So yes, we do kind of work with like a range of different clients, and we'd really like to help you if that's something you're interested in. I can give you more information on the products, and if you send through like the key kind of aspects of your business, and we can work out like what products you need and what can benefit you.
Let's do it.
Great.
Yeah, really good job, guys. So the whole purpose of that exercise was really to have two people who knew nothing about each other. One person try to sell, one person have a business, and really qualify that person, understand what their pain points are and what they really need. So one was a pool company, and then one sold chlorine and cleaning appliances as well. It's really trying to knuckle down, drill down to the bone and find those requirements. That's what we do on a day-to-day, because we have different people sign up all the time. And that's what we'll refer to as consultative sales, which we can have a quick video on right now as well, from the Bank of Scotland.
Hi there, and welcome. In this session, we're talking about consultative selling techniques. Consultative selling techniques are about you becoming a consultant. It's about you understanding the problem in depth. It's about you providing intelligent, effective, creative solutions for the problem. What collaboration can you have with your customer to develop a new product or service that fits their needs? How can you build the trust that you will deliver on those solutions to 110% of their requirements? It's about you adding value creatively to their needs and actually delivering those solutions. Your mindset is not as a salesman, it's as a consultant. Don't be afraid to walk away from the sale at any time if you can't add value. Because as a consultant, you need to build the trust first that you can deliver the product rather than keep saying yes, 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 yes all the time. There are 5 stages to the consultative sales. Firstly, recognize the needs. Recognition of the needs is all about understanding the customer. It's all about going through the customer's requirements and seeing how you can develop a solution that meets those needs. Number 2, evaluation of the various options. There's 101 ways in which you can actually create a solution to a problem. So which ones are the ones that create the best value and best fit to your product, to their needs? You need to present this to them, and they need to evaluate these options that you're presenting and come up with the way forward. Stage 3, you need to resolve all the concerns. In a consultative sale, you're talking to a lot of people. You're building trust in different departments. Therefore, you need to resolve any concerns that anybody has. And that's very wide. So think about how you can meet all these issues and bring them all down and make sure that the sale is something that you can achieve. Number 4, the purchase. You're going to have to generate a specification that meets the needs of the customers that everybody in the organisation can buy into. So that's really key. Stage 5, implementation. The consultative sale is more about the implementation than any other sale. You're going to have a project plan, and the project plan is going to determine the implementation of the solution. You need to oversee this through every single step of the way. In summary, the consultative sale is about you looking for additional value that you can create with the products and services that you already have available. It's about you looking at the needs of the customer and how using the people that you have in your organisation actually create bigger and better value and getting more revenue for your business.
All right, let's give it up for the Bank of Scotland guys.
All right, guys, great video. Now, a little bit more about consultative selling. How does that apply to what you guys do? And what is your experience with prescriptive sales versus consultative sales?
So prescriptive sales, to give you a bit more information on that, that's typically what we'll describe as someone who's selling to get commission. They don't care about the client's needs. They just care about getting a paycheck at the end of the day. Consultative sales is more so like through that video, you can see it's about understanding what the client needs, really drilling down and showing them the best practice on what they require and getting them from point A to point B, which is their workforce success, essentially. My experience, personally, I started at Tanda, and that's been the thing from the get-go, all about consultative sales without it being a term. Never really had experience with prescriptive sales, but Hunter has.
Yeah, so in terms of the video, I think the most important thing to take out from that with consultative sales is the implementation. So that's something we focus on quite heavily here at Tanda. So yeah, making sure that everything goes ahead smoothly, according to plan, all deadlines have been met. And essentially, if we can follow that plan that the client sets, then obviously they'll go home happy. In terms of prescriptive sales, I did a little 1-week venture, door knocking for Red Cross, actually, and that was honestly quite terrible, dealing with that. There was multiple times where we'd have potential customers slamming doors in our faces before we've even set foot on the property. They've threatened to call the police if we set foot on their soil. Things like that. So obviously you would need to come up with some cunning ways to get around those objections because they are quite strong. But essentially that's really why I left that job, because I didn't want to be getting around those extreme hurdles. I mean, if someone wants to sort of not have you in their home, then they don't want you in their home. So I guess that's that.
Yeah, obviously the two are very different, and both come with a lot of pros and cons. What are the different pros and cons when it comes to consultative selling?
I would say, well, we've already sort of discussed the pros, especially in the video. Definitely higher customer satisfaction. All needs have been met. All paths possible have been explored. But in terms of the cons, it is definitely quite time-consuming. So it is very hands-on with the client. You're always discussing their needs, and obviously you need to manage that. So I do find myself thinking about sales and thinking about work almost 24/7, just about that really. So yeah, just making sure that I've done everything that I need to for my clients.
Yeah, Hunter basically summed it up. There's a lot of pros. The cons really that it's time-consuming. You could be trying to help you can only help a set amount of clients, really, at a time, because it's.
Well, you mentioned it being more time-consuming. What sort of tools and what sort of things do you use to get around that and help you from day to day?
Again, on the automation, something that obviously will be coming up quite frequently at the conference today and tomorrow. But essentially, what I've done personally to speed up some of the admin tasks is I've used a combination of Zapier, Calendly, Google Calendar, and also Zoom for meetings and screen shares. So essentially, while I'm talking to clients, if we can't come to a time to meet, they need to go and check their diary, then what I can do is send them a link on Calendly, and they'll be able to choose a day and time themselves instead of us having to go back and forth. And by them filling out that form and sort of choosing their day and time, that is scheduling in a Google Calendar event. It's setting a Zoom meeting to be scheduled, and it's emailing them the link to the meeting room. So they've gotten all the information they need within 5 seconds of us finishing up the call.
Yeah, a lot of it is also just going back to the basics, even with just a Google Calendar. Putting in there what your important tasks are, gauging sort of which clients are very, very keen on the system, or people who aren't. Put them sort of on a call every 3 days or weekly or something like that if they're not as invested in getting something straight away. So you can help those clients that really are keen.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some consultative ways of handling objections?
In my opinion, most of the objections that come up in consultative sales are generally around timing, with me anyway. So essentially just making sure that I've got the right date to get back in contact with them, or something may have come up with end of financial year planning, things like that. So they may want to revisit it in 2 months' time. So I just need to make sure that I'm sort of on the ball about that.
Going back to the presentation before this, if anyone was here for that, really asking why, finding out the reason why someone is objecting. Because it might not be an objection, it might be a misunderstanding, it might be a not now, maybe later, and just finding out exactly the reason so you can best assist them to potentially help their business succeed.
What kind of tips do you guys have for a new salesperson coming into the industry?
I reckon for a new salesperson, read as much as you physically can about sales, about business, especially about business operations. If you've got a good idea of sort of what goes on behind the scenes, then you've got a lot of content to be able to relate to decision makers on, especially on the sort of nitty-gritty daily tasks sort of thing. But other than that, actually that pretty much covers it.
Just a general tip would be to sit next to people who are doing well and who have good customer satisfaction, because you learn off the people that you sit next to. So getting a wide variety of people.
Learning off the things like the language and the lingo that they speak.
Exactly, yeah.
So because you guys develop strong relationships while performing consultative selling, do you keep the relationship going past the sale? If not, how do you keep your clients happy?
Definitely. Essentially, I see myself in quite a good position right now, really. I'm talking to a lot of startup businesses, a lot of larger, almost enterprise level businesses, and everything in between as well. So it's quite good to be able to see who the major players in certain industry are, as well as the new ones, the new kids on the block. And occasionally, if the right opportunity arises, being able to connect them. And that way that new business is getting experience and getting sort of knowledge from the existing one, and everyone's happy in the end.
Yeah, so once a client comes aboard, basically we do pass them off to the implementation team, because they know what they're doing as far as integrating with payroll and things like that goes. But I still do say, hey, if there's any emergencies, just feel free to call me directly. And I always do like to see how businesses are going later down the track, months down the track, and help them out in any way I can.
Yeah, there's nothing better than sort of seeing a client come on board with Tanda, and they come on with our minimum staff count being 12, and then sort of 3 months later we look at their account and they've got 300 staff in the account. We went, oh wow, you guys grew very quickly. So yeah, it's definitely a good feeling. I'm probably not at that scale. That's a bit ridiculous, but yeah.
Nothing's impossible. Do you believe in discounting your product to get a deal over the line, or giving out handouts to do so?
I don't believe in discounts, specifically in my role now, because I know that the value of the value that Tanda brings to companies. If people do have objections around price, I'll typically say, hey, completely understand, that's fine. So what we can do is set up like a pilot period where they have to pay a nominal amount for maybe 15 employees, test it out on a small subject or group of staff, and then, after that, roll out later on, if they see the value.
Yeah, so pretty much the same as Saxon, really. Yeah.
Some people as well, some clients do have a bit of trouble committing. So little things like sending out socks, or if we've got an end of financial year time clock or something like that we can give out for free, do that just to get it going, if you know that it's going to benefit them.
Occasionally as well, depending on when the client's wanting to go ahead, if there's any setup fees involved, if they want to go ahead a lot sooner than what we were expecting, or if we're trying to get them to sort of take action a bit sooner, then we may take a small amount off that setup fee, but it wouldn't be something on the subscription. That's generally the only place that I put in discounts and things, because that's obviously the most expensive part of it.
And they can always get a good pair of Tanda socks.
Always. We got 2 of us wearing them up here now, so go grab a pair if you can find them.
Should be a pair in your goodie bag.
When it comes to consultative selling, do you think closing itself is a separate skill to the deal?
I think it's almost a natural progression. I mean, if you're taking that consultative approach, then essentially, if you've focused on every pain point possible, every concern the client has, and answered effectively, then essentially they would want to go ahead on the basis that, hey, you can do what we want you to be able to do, and you're professional in doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's just the next step in the process. It's not something big. It's just.
Yeah, generally, I find closing people, it can be intrusive in terms of doing the hard close. So it is something that we try to sort of make sure that the pre-implementation and the lead up to the close is as effective as possible, so that, yeah, it is just a natural progression of the deal.
How would you guys train a new employee coming into the business tomorrow?
Well, we do have a standard training program, which is sort of setting up a zero account without Tanda, then setting up a zero account using Tanda parallel, and sort of seeing how much easier it is to be able to do it. That definitely helps for product knowledge. In terms of sales knowledge, I definitely think that it's worthwhile having the sales rep run through demo or product demonstrations rather, with current employees who know some pretty insane questions that they get asked and some pretty ridiculous objections, and just seeing how that progression happens to start off with, and obviously adding in pointers from there.
Yeah, I think having them do a different role, sort of maybe support, so they get that product knowledge, like Hunter said, is very important. And then, yeah, going back to what I said earlier about having them sit next to people that are doing well and they understand the culture and the business, will help them achieve well, or achieve the most.
Awesome. All right, that's all the questions I had today, guys. But have you guys put any questions through the app? If you guys want to answer those.
Well, I think we've still got a bit of time, so we might just do a live sort of Q&A. Have we got any questions from the audience at all? Yep. Fire away.
Thank you. What's in it for you?
In terms of being in sales, or?
No. What do you get in reward for bringing on new clients, personally?
Personally, I find it is all about being able to improve the other person's business. I'm not about commission. I did come from a hospitality environment where I was paid a flat rate, so for me, if there's ever any commission involved, it's going straight into investments and things that are wise like that. However, it is not sort of a huge area of what I like to focus on. It definitely is about sort of making sure that the customer is satisfied in what I've set out to be able to achieve for them.
So are you commissionable?
Depending on the client, yes. But it, as I said, it sort of depends on who else is involved in the process. Obviously, if it's a team approach, then we'd have to look at things again. As
far as commission is concerned, yes, it is something that does come. People get paid at the end of the day. We do not get the commission instantly. So we have to make sure it's going to be a good fit for the company, for them to stay on for a certain amount of time, lengthy, a few months, and then we'll get it after that.
Absolutely. Consultative sales is really a special technique to have through influence, negotiation, and you talked before about being hunters and being relationship driven, but closing not being a natural progression. Do you think, like in that transaction that you have with your clients, does that happen more times than not, or do you think just from having that type of style? Because we train slightly different. And I'm just curious to just know whether or not you think we train to close through relationships, long-term relationships, commission-based, by paying the engagement relationship that you've built forever and a day. So hold on to that partnership and be rewarded by treating that client like next door. But you train to close first, to close that door from anybody else.
Yeah, so I think the approach that we take on closing and inbound, like Saxon and I, as we said, are on the inbound team. Essentially, most of the people who are signing up, that there's already interest and there's already a need for the product in most of the cases. So for us, it's more about sort of making sure that they've got the tools to be able to use it properly, as opposed to trying to close them, because they've already expressed that interest. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in contact with them. So it's not like sort of a cold situation where it is us trying to get their business. It's them wanting to use our product.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
I think we've got another question here.
You talked about like learning new sales techniques and all that through books. Like, would you recommend like a few books?
Definitely. I personally would recommend a book called Client Rush. I can't remember who it's by. It's by an Australian bloke, but it is very much sort of about selling in the Australian market. Obviously, there's very different styles between US, between Australia and overseas in the UK and Europe. In the US, it's quite often quite flashy and quite sort of go at it, kind of like Wolf of Wall Street style, but in Australia it's obviously a bit more how you going. So it's definitely a book that it's very good skills in there to be able to sort of work in the Australian market for sure.
And it's kind of the same thing, but a different question. Do you know of any podcasts that are kind of on the sales side that you guys have listened to, or maybe anyone in the audience?
I'm not that far into technology yet, so I'll let Saxon do that one.
I don't really delve into the podcast. I know that there is, and I'm not sure of the what information's on this site. I've heard of a site called Clothesline. So basically, it's just a bunch of resources that other salespeople have uploaded to basically like a forum, and you can see what works, what doesn't. And I'm sure there's consultative methods on there as well.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions?
No, well, I think that pretty much wraps things up, guys. Well, thank you for taking some